The information provided on lifeinterruptedradio.com is for educational purposes only.
So it's understanding how to use these things. We think we know how to think. We really don't. We really don't. We just let it run off with us, and then we wonder why we have this pile of mess in the front of us called our life.
You know, that's true. One of the questions I ask myself a lot is this something I believe, or do I know it? Because that's important. It's very similar to what I said that my mentor taught me, but it's a way to reflect back on sometimes when it says that led me to believe this. Well, sometimes I know it. There's scientific proof that drinking more water will help you feel better. Even if it won't cure your autoimmune, it will absolutely help you feel better. Because I think we all walk around, the majority of us walk around pretty dehydrated. So, it's things like that I could say, well, in this case, I know it. Versus when you said how to think, so did you accept somebody's belief? And that could even be a medical professional's belief who labels this as a lifelong, just get used to it. I can't tell you that probably a handful, thinking back, of doctors said, Sharon, just get used to it. Just get used to it. When I said, but I'm going to find a way to stop this. I'm going to find a way to heal and get better, get optimal. I don't want to just be normal. I want to be optimal. And it was difficult to hear at times doctors saying, just get used to it. It's proven it's a lifelong chronic illness. And I really think that, there are a lot of things we can do that even if I still am wearing that label of some sort with some medical professionals, my life is pretty good. It's back on track, and I've got all the symptoms under control, and, it's working for me. So I think that's important to understand when you said about, having somebody implant their thinking versus learning what I call critical thinking, to understand how to think and how to make sure that you don't accept what people say hook, line, and sinker. Because if we did with some of the medical professionals, gosh, I wouldn't get out of bed tomorrow if I had accepted some of the stuff they said.
But the doctors bring to your awareness that there is something that you need to look at. This is happening in your body. Thank you. All right. Your judgment about that is not needed. You know what I mean? Because people do that to us. They plonk their experience about it onto us, and it doesn't have to be our experience. One of the best teachers I have right now is my daughter, Taylor, 22 years old. And we are oil and water, and you bring us together, and it's like, poof, crazy stuff, right? But she's my teacher for a reason. I remember we were having a little bit of a shouting match years ago when she was in the tween area. She's 22 now. And I'm going on and on, thinking I'm doing good mother stuff. This is good mothering, I'm thinking. Okay. This child turns around and says to me, do you mind not putting your self-esteem issues on me? Well, if you had thrown cold water on me, it wouldn't have been any difference. But in that moment, she woke me up. Because this is what we do. We transfer our stuff and baggage onto other people, especially our children. And in that moment, if I had paid $10,000 for that piece of information, it would have been worth it. Stop the cold.
It's funny you say that because I can totally understand, because I flashed back when you said that putting your stuff on other people, especially your children, begin to wonder about through the whole curing process that I go through about what do you put on those closest to you. And I had a friend tell me not too long ago that, Sharon, your family is very concerned about you. Even though you are doing well and all of that, they still have, just like I do, she's a close friend, she goes, just like I do, we're still worried what's going to happen tomorrow to you and all sorts of things like that. And so I'm thinking about how us that have an illness or going through the healing process have to honor where our friends are at as well. With some of our healing process and our own fears and things, we've created maybe a joint spiral where our friends and family are also needing to be helped to stay in the present moment so they're not spiraling out, worried about us not understanding what's really going on. Oftentimes I'll say, I'm fine. And that's such a loaded phrase. I could really be fine, or they might be worried like, oh, she's just saying I'm fine, dismissing anything that might be going on for her.
Well, people take cues from us, Sharon, and they will react or act accordingly to those cues that we're sending out. Are we giving the cues of victim? Are we giving the cues of isolation? Are we giving the cues of empowerment? It all depends on what type of cues. And we're never really quite sure what those cues are we're giving, because a lot of it is learned behavior based on, how our family, everybody has their family histories and how everybody reacts and treats each other. And we do that with our friends as well. It's all part of that sort of tribal thing that we do with each other. So when you start learning about yourself, and this is something that comes up for my clients when we're in these spaces, and what happens as they might have maybe shifted on that spiral. They might have gone to a new place on that spiral up. One of the things that happens is that the people that's in relationship with them, whether it be family, kids, or even peers at our workplace, they don't know how to react to you because they have not had to react to you in a different way of being before. So they start to get concerned and worried. When someone gets ill, you don't know how to react in that space with them because you've not had to do it before. Like when someone says to you, oh, I just was diagnosed with a life-threatening disease of some sort. All we know how to do is say, oh, we go into that place. Oh, I'm so sorry. We start bringing on the scripts. And usually the scripts come from, well, what happened when my great Aunt Lucy had this problem? What did my mother do? Or my aunts do? Or your brain starts searching for ways to react based on the past experience. Either it could be off a TV show. I see kids modeling what goes on Pretty Little Liars or the OC or whatever, right?
Oh, dear.
Unfortunately. But that's where our brain searches for the cues and how to react. So your inner circles are looking for ways to react with you and to you. And you are the person emanating those signals and cues. So it always comes back to you, right? And if a conversation needs to happen, have it. And sometimes fine really is just fine.
Absolutely. And I'll say, too, that I work with my nonverbal communications work, that if you don't understand the response you're getting from someone, you need to check back, sort of rewind the tape and see what kind of cues, signals, or words did you send out that elicited that response. Because sometimes even words, let's go beyond the word I'm fine, because that's kind of a normal one. But even saying, oh, well, I'm in pain today, they might all of a sudden spiral out of control that it's, tremendous pain or something like that. So I'd say if you don't ever understand the response you got, rewind the tape and figure out what message you sent, because maybe you sent a confusing message. One time I had a client in my communications work, and she would use the word loopy. Now, I had no idea what that meant. We had to do some searching between our different points of reference so I could go, oh, that's what you mean by the word loopy. And I think even if it's not as obvious a word like what's loopy, it's like, what is pain? What is fine?
That's right.
And just checking in with everybody and finding out if those words you guys have the same meaning.
That's right. Everyone's on the same level playing field. And we're not really taught to communicate that way. We assume everybody understands or should know. I mean, that's one of the big dating hangups. It's like, he should know how I feel, right? Or what I want or need. And, everybody goes crazy after that, right? So it's not any different, really, because it's about being in relationship. And, how this conversation even started about being in conversation with yourself. And that's what the present moment is about. Constantly checking in to see if we are indeed fine, to see if we are emanating those proper signals and cues for us to keep moving forward, even in whatever life has given us, whether it be health, financial, relationship, whatever. Are we okay? Are we communicating properly to ourselves in the moment?
The information provided on lifeinterruptedradio.com is for educational purposes only. What you hear, read, and see on Life Interrupted Radio is based on experience only. The information presented here should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on Life Interrupted Radio. You've been listening to Life Interrupted Radio. To learn more, listen to other shows, and gain free resources that can help empower your life, be sure to stop by lifeinterruptedradio.com.